Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation brought to you by Bet365. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I am joined by Harman, and you'll notice if you were on the live show that we're a little late today, but it's for a very good reason. It's for a very good reason, and you'll see what that reason is a little bit later in the show. It is a Canucks game day. Final 5 games of the
Whoopee,
season.
let's go.
Final 5 games of the season for the
And the
Canucks.
crowd goes mild.
We're not going to talk a lot about tonight's game. Shocker. We're not. But there is some business to get to. There's some news to get to that I wanted to talk about. Some stuff in anyone else that we're going to get to. And then, yeah, we have a fun little game planned for anyone else. And the idea of this game, I don't want to give too much hints, but Harman and I were like, okay, what should we talk about today? We're trying to plan the show. Neither of us could really come up with much, okay? So we asked Jacob, and Jacob, who is the noted ideas guy on this show. Noted ideas guy Jacob informing me now that the big surprise is on the topic bar. So yes, we're gonna play NHL Arena Geoguessr. So you'll understand later in the show. We're gonna put it on YouTube as well for those on the podcast because it's still gonna be a good podcast segment, I'm sure. But if you really want to see it with all the visuals, you can go onto the YouTube. We're going to post it on YouTube as a separate segment. So that's not a big secret, but Harman and I couldn't really come up with anything. So ideas guy, Jacob Lazar, our technical producer and ideas guy on the show, came up with this, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Harm, how you feeling today?
I'm good. I feel like we're at the point in the season where I can sense the apathy among the fan base. I feel it. I really do. And I think the interest will kick back up when the season's over and we shift into off-season mode where there are actually a lot of really interesting storylines surrounding this team. And that's when I expect there will be a lot of chatter, a lot of noise, a lot of interest. But at this stage of the season, there just isn't a whole lot interesting that's happening. Sure, for some individual guys, like we mentioned, Hoglander, Joshua, Demko, they've got they've still got stakes on the line, and they want to finish strong, as do all the young guys who got recalled from Abbotsford. But especially with no with no indication that we don't know yet once Tom Willander's season in BU is over, but with how little time is left in the season, would probably lean towards him starting in the AHL and having the ELC kick in next season, which had he been eliminated earlier, there would have maybe been some excitement around, okay, he's going to sign and is he going to join the NHL roster? So you don't have that storyline yet either.
But there's still lots. And someone in the chat said Abbotsford Canucks convo. KJ in the chat said Abbotsford Canucks convo. We always do go pretty hard on the Abbotsford coverage later. I've had some ideas. We're going to try to get Manny Malhotra back on the show. Abbotsford's on a 13-game winning streak. They just got Jonathan Lekkerimaki back, which we're going to talk about. But I'd like to get Manny back on the show. That conversation we had with him a month or two ago was just so good. We're hoping to get him back on the show. In-studio shows on Friday and Monday. Back-to-back. That doesn't happen anymore. Some notes to get to. I mentioned it. Jonathan Lekkermaki's been sent down to the AHL. Everybody's kind of pointing this out. It's at 24 games. He's 2 games away from losing 2 NHL games, I should say, away from losing Calder eligibility for next season. And I don't know how people want to read into this. I look into this as something that's a positive for everyone. He was playing 8 minutes a night at the NHL level. I think you and I agree that he probably should be playing more down the stretch. But if that wasn't going to happen, then yeah, get him in Abbotsford. They get some extra firepower. And again, it's a learning process for him every time he's been up at the NHL level. And I think the thing he comes away with is the same thing he learned the first time, which is, yeah, there's a lot of wall work, and he's probably got to put on a few pounds of muscle to be effective at the NHL level next year. But I think this is a positive for everybody. He keeps his Calder eligibility for next season. The Canucks, I'm trying to think of the positive for the Canucks. The Canucks might be able to advertise that they've got a Calder finalist. I don't know. There's not a ton of positives, I don't think, for the Canucks, but it's doing right by a player, in my view.
100%. There was no point of him playing 8, 9, 10 minutes a night, especially now with Hoglander back. He was obviously the odd man out in the Vegas game. And when you look at the pool of wingers they have, who is going to come out for Lekkerimaki, right? Sure, you could say a guy like Linus Karlsson, but I actually think he's played really well. And if you're talking about a fourth line capacity, I think Karlsson's a much better fit there. Not to mention that I don't think putting Lekkerimaki in the fourth line is exactly a position for him to succeed. Sasan's a center, so obviously he's going to stick there. You're not taking Sherwood, Joshua, or Connor, or any of those guys out, and then it's really the top 6 wingers. So there's not really a spot for him in the lineup right now. And yeah, let him go down to Abbotsford, build his confidence, score a lot of goals, get prepared for this playoff run in Abbey, and just let him gear up. He's learned the lessons, right? This is the point of like developmentally. This is something that really early in the season Tocchet had mentioned, how the organization likes to get guys up to the NHL to give them a glimpse, give them a taste and a couple of different opportunities so that they know exactly what it takes. And that can then inform their summer training. Whereas if there was another scenario, perhaps on another team, Lekkerimaki maybe doesn't even sniff the NHL at all. It just spends the entire year in the minors. And it's not to say that would have necessarily been a terrible thing, but now he has a much better idea of what he needs to work on in the offseason, the strength. It's one thing to know what exactly, like everybody says, oh, it's bigger, you need to get bigger, you need to get faster. It's another thing to actually experience it and then to take that with you to prepare for next season.
Absolutely. Some more notes to get to before we get to Jeff here. Thatcher Demko starts in goal for the Canucks tonight. We also got some injury updates, if you want to call it that. Elias Pettersson, Philip Hedl, and Tyler Myers did not make the trip. Obviously, Hedl's dealing with the concussions. Pettersson has the upper body injury, and Myers left that game against the Kraken last week and has not returned since. So when you get this late in the season, you always wonder, okay, what is going to happen down the stretch? Like, are these guys going to actually return to the lineup, or are they just done for the year? I mean, I was looking at the numbers. There's not much you can do well, I guess he's going to miss the next 2 for sure. Even in 3 games, it's safe to say this is going to go down as the worst year of Elias Pettersson's career, statistically. It's unfortunate, but we can finally put a bow on it and say, yeah, he had that little stretch where everybody got excited, but this is going to go down as, for now, the worst season of Elias Pettersson's career.
Yeah, and it's too bad that he got hurt when he did, because he was starting to figure it out. And how much more confident are you potentially in him bouncing back next season had he maintained that form and just finished strong through the end of the campaign? Whereas now the finishing strong was really just a 10-ish game stretch, which isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. It gives you some level of optimism, but you can't say with full certainty that, oh, he's going to bounce back for sure because he had 10 strong games.
And there's decisions to be made, Harm. Like when the Miller trade happened, the first thing we were talking about, Saravalli was on the show, everybody was talking about it. This idea that, okay, now the Canucks are using now until the draft, or really till the end of the season, to decide if they're going to keep Elias Pettersson or if they're going to try to trade him at the draft. And that's going to be a really interesting question. You brought up storylines in the early parts of the offseason that we're just 5 games away from getting to. That's one of them. With that, let's bring in Jeff Paterson, who's brought to you by Pacific Toyota, dealers who want to tell you about the 100% electric Toyota BZ4X, an SUV packed with plenty of space. The BZ4X can handle any terrain, taking you from the city to the slopes. It's backed by the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're driving a Toyota, and if you're driving a BZ4X, you get access to HOV lanes even if you're driving alone. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives, and now you can finance the 2025 BZ4X from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Get an and go event. That's a good one. I like that. Okay. Jeff Paterson joins us now, the host of Rink Wide Vancouver. He's got 5 more left to go. Jeff, you heard the conversation we were just having. Let's start there. Elias Pettersson isn't going to get a great run to continue what was a solid 10-game stretch. It's decision-making time for this team. Do they keep Elias Pettersson? Do they trade him? Where are you at when it comes to that conversation?
Well, I guess if he doesn't play these final 5 games, we're going to be robbed of the opportunity to hear his teammates chant Selke again like they did that night in Toronto. Was that the high point of his season, by the way? It very well may have been, but I digress there. I guess I'll take your question and spin it in a little different direction. I'd like to know what the injury is. And we didn't know what kept Nils Höglander out of the lineup. We don't know what's keeping Tyler Myers out of the lineup. I think that speaks to the apathy that those questions aren't being asked to the coach. The coach isn't terribly forthcoming with injury information at the best of time, but people don't seem to be sniffing around and poking around and digging. It's just, he's out of the lineup. But if it is a wrist, every time Paterson's out of the lineup, people default to the wrist, right? If it is the wrist, that's a different story than if it's just some sort of mid-body injury that is going to heal up in time and allow him to have a better summer this time around than last year. So I'd like to be armed a little bit with that knowledge, and I guess that's something that we'll try to get to the bottom of if, in fact, he doesn't come back at all this year. With Tyler Myers out of the lineup, it's unfortunate because he's had a really nice season for the Vancouver Canucks, and really that's 2 in a row for him. But the flip side there is that it keeps DPD and Mancini in the lineup together. I know you guys talked about it on yesterday's show. A bit of a mixed bag weekend for Mancini, but I would assume that he's going to get another opportunity to run with Quinn Hughes here tonight. And I do hope he makes the most of it because there's raw talent there. You can see it. And in fact, even in the second period the other night against Vegas, took the puck, lugged it up ice, got hard to the net, almost created a scoring chance for himself. Like, there are moments, but there were also some questionable decisions with and without the puck. So, people can say there's, what does the game mean? I mean, your show title today, I'm not sure who's in charge of creative, but Canucks at Dallas, that pretty much says it all, right? Like, that's about it. Canucks are in Dallas. But there are some things to look for. That's you. You're taking responsibility.
That's me, yeah.
All right. Take the good and the bad. Because I know you'll pat yourself on the back with a good show title, so you got to take that one and wear it as well. But yeah, like it's hard to come up with a ton of really compelling storylines when you're going into a game like this one. I guess for me, I look at the Dallas Stars, and I hope the Vancouver Canucks look at the Dallas Stars really closely. And I know Rick Tocchet after morning skate this morning talked about the fact that, not a measuring stick in terms of, what they can learn for the remainder of this season, but organizationally, like they took on a good Vegas team and they knew that they had to be at or near their best just to hang with the Vegas Golden Knights, who have legitimate designs on winning another Stanley Cup. The Dallas Stars obviously mean business, and they still have an outside chance of finishing first in the Western Conference. They lost twice on the weekend. Like, I think they're going to be motivated here. And so, is fear a motivating force for the Vancouver Canucks? At some level, maybe it should be that, this is a tough road trip. Obviously, Dallas and Colorado. Colorado with its speed, and we know what speed has done to the Vancouver Canucks. Dallas just comes at you in waves. They've got so much depth, all the high-end talent, but they got so much balance as well. And it was interesting, and I was looking at their salary structure today and find this fascinating, that the Dallas Stars are a 50-win, 100-point team. Miro Heiskanen's been out of the lineup since mid-January, and they haven't flinched. And, that's a total credit to the rest of those guys. A lot of teams in that situation, you lose your best defenseman, and you think, woe is us. But beyond that, in their salary cap, their 2 highest paid forwards are Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn. Seguin's barely played this year, and Benn is very much a depth and a role player at this stage. And so, they've absolutely hit it out of the park with a bunch of guys at lower price points. Now, Mikko Rantanen's agreed to a $12 million max deal starting next year, and there's 1 year left on Jason Robertson's deal at $7.25, I think it is. So, and Thomas Harley's going to need it. It's coming for them as well. But in the here and now, the fact that they are where they are with their 2 highest paid forwards, really not big contributors, and one of the top teams, it's impressive stuff. Jim Nill, there's a reason he's been, is it 2 years in a row? I think it is, the reigning general manager of the National Hockey League.
Big picture, J-Pat, what's your assessment for why the season for the Canucks went off the rails? And when you dissect some of those individual factors, what's your confidence level that the organization can bounce back next year?
Injuries certainly play a role in it. A healthy Thatcher Demko all season long, I have to think would have led to a few more wins along the way if he plays the games that Artur Silovs did. Is there enough point total, or is there enough points in their back pocket to be a playoff team? Maybe. We don't have to relitigate. We all know the injuries. It hit hard this year. But look, management started this season, and we, not just the 3 of us, but Canuck Nation screamed from the mountaintops that you can't go into a season with a defense core like this. You just can't. There's no way that this is going to be a good enough defense core. And sure enough, management just plowed straight ahead. And how many games for Noah Juleson and Vincent Desharnais, and you remember all the arguments about Eric Brandstrom. That was wasted energy now. they've revamped their defense core, and their defense looks way better now than it did at the start of the season, but the start of the season matters as well. And so I think there was some stubbornness on the part of management that they knew best, and they were going to just push forward here. And this coaching staff that worked wonders with Tyler Myers last year could do the same thing with a Vincent Desharnais. Obviously, that didn't pan out. So some of the offseason moves for the Vancouver Canucks didn't pay the dividends that they were expecting. And then we can look at things like the overtime record. Obviously, all the points that they left on the table. But does that come back to talent level and the assembled players? Like, why can't they win more, or why do they lose so much in overtime? I hope that's something that they look at. And the home record. And, it's hard to put your finger on one thing with the home record, but the home record was a disaster. When you look at the teams that they lost to on home ice this season, that's one of the big reasons that they are where they are on the outside looking in with 5 games to go. So, it's not just one thing, which kind of complicates the matter. If it was just one area of concern that you could try to patch up. But as we've watched the season unfold, Harm, clearly top-end offensive talent, even with Elias Pettersson in the lineup, they need more. And that's been apparent for a while now, and is certainly the number one priority for this hockey club into the offseason.
Jeff Lekkerimaki sent down today. Jonathan Lekkerimaki sent down to the AHL. We were talking about that off the top. We think it looks most of all like an organization doing right by a player. How do you view that move?
Yeah, I mean, it was a week ago today when I asked Rick Tocchet point blank after practice, are you looking to get him more ice time? Because he had said as much coming out of the New Jersey game where he scored, and he also scored in the shootout. And Tocchet really pushed back hard and basically said, like, we have a plan, trust us, we know what we're doing here. I don't know if the plan was for him to finish the season in the National Hockey League or if this was, in fact, part of the plan. Now, on Sunday, when he was a healthy scratch and he's at the NHL level, yeah, I didn't love that. Like, if he's on your roster and he's here, he's part of the future, this whole play the kids movement. But in saying that, since the Jersey game, he's been really quiet. And other guys have stepped up. And the day before, Max Sasson had scored a nice goal, and the effort level was there. And I think Sasson was rewarded to stay in the lineup, and now he's out on the road trip and is going to play again here. So I have no issues whatsoever with Jonathan Lekkerimaki finding his way back to Abbotsford. He was going to do that for the playoffs. If he's not going to play in the NHL, then Abbotsford is, in fact, the place for him. And we've seen he's excelled down there. Now, I'm going to say this, and I want to be perfectly clear. I'm talking about just his raw numbers in the National Hockey League this year have been underwhelming. I'm not going to say disappointing. He's a young guy that's finding his way and learning the ropes, and he will grow, and he has to get bigger and stronger. But Max Sasson has as many goals in the NHL this season as Jonathan Lekkerimaki. Like, at the outset of this year, I think people all thought that Lekkerimaki was going to get his chance here, and he scores at every other level he's played at. It's going to happen. It hasn't happened at the NHL. It's not a knock on him. It's part of the curve. And so that's why I'm trying to be clear that I'm not saying I'm disappointed in him. I just, takeaway numbers they're underwhelming, and they are. Mm-hmm. I think back to Brock Boeser when he broke into the National Hockey League. We all remember his debut in Minnesota, and he scored. But more than that, Boeser played 9 games at the tail end of that year after turning pro out of college. He scored 4 times. 4 times in 9 games at the NHL level. And it was like, all right, this is a goal scorer. This is what goal scorers do. And guess what? He scored 29 the following year as a raw rookie. I haven't seen enough of that in Lekkerimaki's time in the National Hockey League to make me think that he's going to push 30 goals in his first full season in the National Hockey League, but I'll give him every opportunity. But like everybody else, I think it's apparent he needs a big offseason. He does look small out there. And so he's got to find a way to bulk up to handle the rigors of facing the best defenseman in the National Hockey League and winning his board battles and all those types of things. So again, if he's not going to play when he's on the NHL roster, then yeah, get him down to a great environment right now. I want to be in Abbotsford right now, the way that team's going. So hopefully, they'll plug him in. He'll play 20 minutes tonight, and he'll get that to his groove back again when it comes to scoring goals and be a big part of what Abbotsford's hoping to put together in terms of a lengthy playoff run.
We've seen 23 games of DPD now. I feel like we discussed him a lot coming out of, the first week or two, especially after the Colorado game, where that was probably his best game of the season. But we haven't discussed him a ton lately. What have you made of his overall body of work in the NHL so far? What stands out to you both, positively and I don't want to say negatively, but as areas for him to improve as he matures and gains experience?
Yeah, almost across the board, positive reviews for him. Love his physicality. I don't know that we've seen him be as rugged and as active on the physical front as we had in the early going. Like when he came in, he didn't back down most of the games, was separating guys from the puck and looking to be assertive that way. I think part of that comes with settling in now and understanding the game. Look, he's been used in highly sheltered minutes, and I think that's part of his story as well. But, Mancini, we're talking about some of his mistakes. He's playing with Quinn Hughes. You'd like to think, okay, Quinn's going to cover up for him, but at the same time, he's probably seeing much better competition on a shift-by-shift basis than Elias Pettersson has for the most part. Now, I know Stéphane Roger wrote at Canucks Army that he's untouchable, and it was a fascinating column, and people should go read about it. I disagree, quite frankly, and I think you guys had this conversation yesterday that, with Quinn Hughes and Marcus Pettersson ahead of him, like, where is the growth path on the left side as a Vancouver Canuck? Now, DPD's shown he can play the right side as well. I'm high on this guy. I think much of the NHL would be high on this guy. But when you've got Sawyer Minio, or you've got Kirill Kudryavtsev, or you could go out into the market and find a third pairing left side guy at $1 million, you don't have a ton of trade chips. And so the idea that he's untouchable, I think is wrong at this stage, because if they are going to address their woes up front, I think you used the phrase yesterday, Harm, you got to give to get, right? Yeah. And so I hope that he continues to play and develop and all those types of things. And so I don't want it to come off that I'm sour on him at all. He's so far ahead of the curve in terms of what they expected from a just turned 21-year-old third-round draft pick. But it is an area of organizational strength. And so I'm by no means advocating that they trade him or use him as a trade chip, but they're going to have to make some difficult decisions here this offseason. And I think just the body type that he's got, I love the fact that they've played him against like all the top teams in the National Hockey League. He maybe hasn't played a lot in those games, but they haven't spared him. I think his debut was against Washington, if I'm not mistaken, when the Caps were the top team in the NHL, and I loved that. I thought, throw the kid in there. Like, what a great opportunity. And he didn't look out of place then, and he doesn't now. So, look, we've knocked the organization for its development of players for a long time. We're starting to see that having the farm team in the backyard, the way that they've used Abbotsford and the shuttle and brought guys in and out, and DPD's part of that, and the coaching job that Manny's done down there, all those types of things are right up at the top of the list of positives for the organization this year. But you're not just developing guys for your own team. You might be developing players to use as assets in a deal to address areas of weakness elsewhere. So let's see where it goes. But the idea that he's untouchable, I think, is a little misguided at this stage.
It's going to be a long off season. There's going to be a lot to talk about. Actually, I guess it'll be a short off season, because there's going to be a lot that happens. Bang, bang. A lot of stuff happening quick. And Jeff, we'll be talking to you all summer long.
Well, just quickly, I laughed that you guys were talking about like apathy's kicked in, and it has. And I think everybody's timeline, you feel it. Game day just doesn't have that same pop. I remind you, there's a game against San Jose coming up on Monday. So if you think you've reached rock bottom when it comes to apathy, the San Jose Sharks are coming to town. Although I saw Mike Russo's tweet out of Minnesota that on Saturday, he thinks that Marc-Andre Fleury is going to get the start here in what will probably be the Flyers' final NHL regular season game. So obviously, he's going to be as the backup come playoff time. I'm not saying it's the last time we ever see him play in the NHL, but the last NHL start for Marc-Andre Fleury, perhaps, at Rogers Arena on Saturday. So a little subplot there, and there's kind of been the farewell tour, and we've seen teams line up and shake his hand after the game and all that kind of stuff. So I would imagine to some degree it could be a little celebration for one of the great goaltending careers in National Hockey League history here in Vancouver on Saturday.
All right, Harman has to bring his dog on stream. Jeff, thanks for joining us. That's our rule.
The show has gone to the dogs. It is the dog. Well, we're long past the dog days, but anytime we get Harm's dog on the show, it's a good thing.
Anytime a dog barks, we have to bring the dog on screen. That's our rule.
It.
Yeah, Jeff, thanks so much for doing this. We'll catch you on rink.
Enjoy the game tonight, guys.
We'll catch you on rink one. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff Paterson. There he is, Rink Wide Vancouver. I don't even know if Harman can turn his mic on. Nope. No, muted again. Wow, that is and for those that are just joining us, Harman has a large Cane Corso. Beautiful, beautiful dogs, but yes, they do have a fairly low, deep bark. Harman, are we going to be able to continue the show? What's going on here?
Let me see if he settles it. Okay, I'm gonna have to do something. I'll be back. Give me a minute.
Now, interesting thing about dog psychology. And Harman, you can go. Yeah, Harman's gone. Interesting thing about dog psychology. And I've learned this. Everybody hears me talk about my dog. When I'm in the room, and Jacob, you know Bert, when I'm in the room, rarely ever barks, right? But there's a big window. We got floor to ceiling windows in the apartment, right? If he sees something out there and he's alone, he's fine. But if I'm home but not in the room with him, he will bark at it. If he's alone, he doesn't bark at it unless it actually gets really close to the apartment. Like if it's a bird that lands right outside, he'll bark. But if it's just anything in the distance and I'm home but I don't see it because I'm out of the room, then he starts barking. And what I have to do is I have to go in there, tell him, hey, it's okay. And then once he knows that I've seen it and that it's okay, he chills out. And hopefully that's what happened with Harman's dog as well. And Cameron Howarth in the chat said, I too have a Cane Corso. Absolutely love them. Great dogs. And this one seems to have calmed down.
Yeah, I just went over and petted him. I think that made me realize that there's no actual threat. I think he just heard a bunch of construction going on. So I think he heard those noises and assumed somebody was trying to break in.
I just explained all of that actually. Yeah, because Bert does the exact same thing. I was just saying, and you tell me if yours is different, if Cash is different. Bert won't bark if he's home alone and hears that. If he's home alone and hears that, he won't bark unless he like sees someone like approaching. Then he'll start barking. But if I'm home, but in another room and he sees something in the distance or hears something like Cash just did, he'll start barking and be like, hey, you got to come check this out.
No, I think Cash will just bark in general, even if he's home alone. Like he's barked at me, not knowing that it's me.
Oh, all right. Big Dog Hockey said Canucks combo, not dogs combo. Hey, we love dogs on this show. In the chat, we have someone said Canucks could use some dogs with bark like that. That's a good bark. That's a good low bark.
Plays with edge.
Plays with edge.
Stands up for his teammates.
Absolutely stands up for his teammates. You heard it right there.
Big body.
Big body, that's for sure. That's where Bert comes up a little short. Okay. Let's get to... Oh, wait. Let's do the NHL Arena Geoguessr. Let's do that, and then let's get to anyone else. Because there's a lot, actually, for anyone else. So, Jacob, you kind of take the lead here. The NHL Arena Geoguessr, what do you need me to do?
Yeah, so I'm turning the camera on here just so that I can explain the rules. And I figure, hey, we'll treat it kind of like Family Feud. Why not? So what's going to happen, Quads, is you're going to get into Geo Guesser, which for those who are listening that don't know, you get dropped somewhere on Google Street View. And then you have the little map in the corner and you have to try and pinpoint exactly where you are. The more or the closer you get to the exact location, the more points you get. Maximum number of points in a round is 5,000. For this one, I wanted to make it a little bit trickier because, you know, if you could move around, it would be really easy to find out exactly what arena you're at. Some of them are easier than others, and some are interior, some are exterior, but there's no moving, there's no zooming, there's no panning your camera, and you only get a minute per round. So you guys are going to have to identify what the arena is, and then Quads, you're going to have to scroll in on the map and pinpoint exactly where the arena is located. All right? You ready?
Oh. Yeah,
I'm assuming we're working together.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys can work together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna lean heavily on Harman.
So we just gotta name the arena. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Well, not just name it. You have to actually pinpoint it on the map.
Yeah, where it is on the map.
Okay. We'll figure it out, I'm sure.
A world map, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Quads,
I'm good at that. Like I know all the states, I know all the capitals. I'm really good at that. So that Harman, if you can tell me what city it's in, I can tell you where.
Yeah, and that's the advantage.
Our team.
Harman will have been to a lot of these arenas. Mm-hmm. You might recognize the exterior. He'll know, oh yeah, that's downtown, or oh, that's in this part of the city. I stayed in the hotel there. Harman's going to be your big advantage, okay. Quads.
Let's do it.
So all right, Quads, click play as guest.
Oh,
this is Columbus.
Oh, nice. So what do I do here?
So zoom in and try and find where the arena is.
Oh wait. Yeah, I'm gonna do this just for time's sake. Let's go. Boom. Crushed it.
No, you did not.
We're close.
Oh, wait, that was Dallas.
It was Dallas.
Oh.
It's where
this is Arizona.
I've been to both, so I just mixed them up. Honestly, the Columbus exterior is really similar then.
Boom. There's a good one.
All right. Well, yeah, you were close. If you zoomed in, you could have actually clicked on Glendale, but yeah.
I don't think I've been to this one.
This is Toronto.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, zoom in. You got
Oh, yeah.
time. You got a
Toronto's down
full.
there.
You got a full minute.
This isn't good for the podcast, so I'm gonna just keep hammering it.
All
Boom,
right, yeah.
done, crushing it. Okay, I think I know this
Yeah.
one. This is Boston,
Yeah.
which is in Massachusetts. Which is
At
over
least
there.
zoom in like
Boom.
2. Oh,
38 kilometers. I crushed it. I'm sniping it, Jacob. You're just mad that I'm a pure sniper. I think this is the Bell Center.
Bell Center, yeah.
Montreal's down here. Boom.
the whole point is
51.
You want to try and pinpoint it as close as you can. Just guessing like, 38 kilometers away from the city isn't really. Okay, fine. You know what? I'm sending you another link. I've got an even harder one. So you can take the harder version,
Okay.
and if you're just gonna make a mockery of it by speed running, that's fine. Oh, I think you. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Okay. Let's do Jacob's rules. We'll zoom in properly. Columbus, Ohio. And Jacob, we might need to make some cuts in the podcast to make this.
Yeah,
a
that's
little
fine.
quicker.
Yeah, I'll clean it up for the audio.
Where is the arena in Columbus?
I don't know, man. I've been once, like 3 years ago.
That looks right.
There you go. Now you're playing the game properly.
All
Good
right,
work. You were
boom.
less than a
This is
kilometer
great.
away.
Make sure we upload this to YouTube. This is a great YouTube segment. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't drag.
I think this is Anaheim.
Yeah?
I think.
All right.
I'm not 100% sure though.
Anaheim's up here.
Let's see. Or hold on. This could also be UBS. I can't tell. Because both have a large glass.
Hammer it.
Yeah, whatever.
It's sunny. Anaheim. Did not crush that. That was Denver.
Denver?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have terrible memory of the arenas I've been to.
First one we've gotten wrong. Okay, Detroit, which is in Michigan, up here. It's not in Grand Rapids. And if I'm correct, Little Caesars is very close to the water. Have you been to Detroit?
I haven't.
Okay.
I have been a liability, not
How much can I zoom
not
in?
an asset.
Oh, it's by Comerica. It's by Comerica. That's too easy. Okay. Nice.
Oh, you were just 1 point off the perfect score there.
Okay. Isn't this also the? Oh no, this is Ottawa, isn't it?
Like,
Yeah, that's Ottawa. That's Ottawa.
Do you see the bell though by the jumbotron?
Yeah, I think this is Ottawa though,
Yeah.
based on the crappy seats.
Yeah,
Look at the end of the ice seats. The
Yeah.
shit. Oh.
Yeah, that is Ottawa. Canada,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Ottawa.
Yeah. Canada is
It's
north
like
of
right
Ottawa.
by a highway.
Awesome. Oh no, is it? Wait, where's Canada? You said it's by a highway.
So it's tough. I've been to the outside of this arena before, off the highway.
Is it close?
Get a pick in. You got 5 seconds.
Boom. All right, we were close.
Yeah. All right,
Did I
last
see
round.
shit spill? Okay, State Farm Arena. What's that?
State Farm. I haven't been to.
State Farm Arena. Why do I not know that? Is this? Oh no, this is the.
I don't know. What
This is the Thrashers' old arena.
Oh yeah, it says Atlanta right there.
Where? Where do you see Atlanta?
It says like the thing. I mean, it doesn't. You see the white pillars there.
Yeah,
It's kind of like they don't have. It's kind of spelled like Atlanta.
we're just gonna guess right there.
Very good work on the Atlanta one. You guessed right in the middle of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is the football stadium. But hey, it's right next door. Good work. Other than guessing Anaheim on Colorado, very good work on the hard round. Good job.
That was great. That was a lot of fun. Great job, Jacob. That'll be great for YouTube.
You
That'll be
carried
great.
that so hard. I was just throwing you off.
Well, going back to the very first round, Harman's like, "Oh, that's Columbus." In my head,
Well,
I'm like,
honestly,
"Oh,
the
no,
exterior of
that's Dallas."
Columbus looks very similar,
Mhm.
and I've been to Dallas too, which is why, like, it's funny.
That was fun. I like that.
A lot of the arenas in the US have that like brick exterior. They try and make them look like old brick buildings. Whereas, like a lot of the Canadian arenas.
Yeah,
are
like
very
that's why
distinct looking.
I looked up nationwide, and it was the brick exterior, and if you Google it, it looks nearly the exact same.
Mhm.
Um.
Anytime.
So yeah,
Anytime I can flex geography skills is a good day because I have a really, really good sense of direction. Like I've said this before, but you can spin me around anywhere and just I know what direction I'm facing. I don't know how, but I always know. Like blindfold me, spin me around. I'll tell you what direction I'm facing. I just always know. I don't know how. I don't know what the logic is, but I can always get to places.
Yeah.
I just know. I'm good with directions.
You'd like the actual full Geo Guesser quads. I mean, the pros when they play it, and there actually is professional Geo Guesser. There is a Geo Guesser league and a world championship every year. But the pros use a bunch of like crazy memorization tactics to be like, oh yeah, only this country drives on the left side and has yellow middle lines on the road and white outer lines and uses concrete telephone poles.
I could do a lower mainland way.
That's crazy. But yeah, if you just like want to kill some time, go around on Street View, look for street names, look for city names, it's actually really rewarding when you figure it out.
I'm gonna do it. I like this kind of stuff. Okay, let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends over at Greta Bar YVR. Look, we've got a watch party on Thursday, Vancouver versus Colorado. It's general admission. It's free. We've still got the VIP package, which gets you the burger, gets you the drink, gets you the Greta game card. But there's going to be so much that we are giving away. I started to look into it a little more. We have signed memorabilia that we're going to be giving away. We have a Yeti cooler that we're going to be giving away. And of course, I was wearing the Canucks Army hats yesterday. A ton of Canucks Army merch. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, like I said, anybody who wants to play me in basketball has the chance to do so. And I'll pay for your game. I'll pay for your basketball game. Come out. Let's play some ball. Let's play arcade games. Greta's a great time. Come hang out with us. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to make sure we have a good time, no matter what happens on the screens. Vancouver versus Colorado, April 10th is the thing that will be on the TVs, but we'll be having a lot of fun, and we'll be making it a great time. Event is presented by Fountain Tire and in support of Kids Sport BC. We've got other stuff too. There's just so much stuff that's going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you've been to an event before, you know what I'm talking about, obviously, because you've seen all the other stuff that we do. Must be 19 plus. Don't forget that. Greta Bar, YVR. Come hang out. Going to be a lot of fun. Olivier, I think so, right? French in the chat said Yeti cooler. They're worth a lot, and they are the reason why Utah couldn't pick their name. Should have done it against the Utah HC. We should have been giving away the Yeti cooler. Yeti coolers are fantastic. It's going to be Jacob, am I allowed to win the Yeti cooler? Do we know?
I doubt it.
We'll see.
Now, could your future wife win the Yeti cooler? Maybe. I don't think people would be too happy with that, but I don't think it's against the rules.
How do we pick? Do I just get to pick someone? Because then it's obviously
I don't know. I would imagine it's going to be some kind of raffle.
That always gets me. Raffles. Okay. Well, I won't enter the raffle. Come on out. Get yourself a Yeti cooler. Nation Gear, we got a lot of stuff that we're giving away. Anyone else? A few things. Ivan Demidov is coming to Montreal. Did you see this, Harm? This is the biggest news of the day, in my view. Montreal's a lock for the playoffs at this point. New York doesn't want it. Detroit doesn't want it nearly enough. Are you seeing all the existential crisis tweets coming out of New York right now about how, what's with JT Miller's body language? I literally kicked back in my seat and laughed out loud when I saw that tweet because we all called it. The first tweet that we saw 2 days into Miller's tenure was, JT Miller slamming the bench door. So much passion. And everybody in Vancouver was just like, all right, see how this ends up. And here we are, people complaining about JT Miller's body language. And not just Miller. We're not picking on just Miller. That Rangers team, we've been saying it all along. They're absolutely cooked and they don't want to win games.
That team is just a waste of individual talent, right? I came on the show, almost a month ago when the Rangers had that dreadful performance against the Flames, and I was flabbergasted at how disinterested they looked, how disconnected they were as a team, just dysfunctional, just not even showing up with basic pro habits. Now, obviously, I'm not saying JT's been the reason for that because the Rangers have been a tire fire even before he arrived there, but yeah, and this is why when the Miller trade originally happened, I didn't like it for the Rangers, not because I looked at JT and went, he's not going to be a productive player for them, but simply because I just didn't think the Rangers were a good team. And if you're not a good team, you're going out and acquiring a 32-year-old on an expensive long-term contract who isn't exactly going to solve some of the warts that you have as a team in terms of your defensive structure, your play without the puck, a lot of those like details and habits.
They don't want to win. Like this East race, we were looking at it and said, "Oh, it's really, really close," and it's not that close anymore. The Habs have rattled off 5 straight, man.
And now they gotta worry about that unprotected first-round pick next year.
Where do the Rangers go from here? Again, obviously, we talk a lot about the Canucks on this show for good reason, but like, where do the Rangers go? Because we talked about Chris Drury and we talked about this idea that, okay, this is your last chance, and it's an owner quads move to say, okay, yeah, Miller might not be good in a few years, but he gives us a chance to make the playoffs. You go out and acquire Miller to try to make the playoffs and you don't accomplish that. Like, where do you go from here? This team obviously needs more than what they have right now.
I mean, they have to stay in win now mode because of that unprotected first round pick. Not to mention how old their core is. They can't even tear it down if they wanted to. Not to mention, I don't think ownership there with James Dolan would give the green light for any type of rebuild or retool. I mean, they just
Not again.
signed Shesterkin to a massive contract too, right?
Mhm.
11.5 million starting next season. They kind of have to double down, as difficult as it is. They've got to rebuild that blue line. They just need to graft so much more two-way talent onto that roster and kind of run it back and hope the next season's better.
Seems like a good strategy. But again, you're right. You can't risk anything else with that pick. You can't.
The weird part about the Rangers too, like the poor defensive play, giving up lots of rush chances, turnovers, that stuff isn't too surprising. But their power play being dreadful, that's a part that I didn't anticipate coming into the season. Their power play has been woeful. And when you look at the weapons they got, Panarin, Fox, Zibanejad, even though he's been washed at 5-on-5 for a little bit, we know that he's still been an absolute weapon on the power play for a long time. Trocheck in the bumper, adding JT Miller to the mix. How does that power play group with that type of elite skill struggle to this extent, especially when, I mean, even Chris Kreider was one of the NHL's best net front guys in terms of tips, deflections, rebounds, screens. And for so many years, the Rangers power play is right up there with the Oilers as among the best in the NHL. So that's been the part of their drop-off that has been most mystifying. And that's also the part of their game that's, I'd argue, most likely to rebound for next season.
Laviolette's got to go, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure we agreed that. LC250 asked this one in the chat. Which team is the biggest drop-off from last season? Rangers, Canucks, or Predators? I'm going to be honest. I think with expectations, obviously all are disappointing in their own way, which is why they're all together. But I'm probably going to go with the Rangers being the biggest disappointment this season.
I agree. They won the President's Trophy last year.
Yep.
And for the Canucks, there was some understanding that, okay, they may not win the Pacific Division because they had a PDO bender last year. Now, I don't think any of us expected them to miss the playoffs, but we expected them to, more likely than not, get fewer points in the standings than they did last year. So, yeah, I'd go Rangers, probably Canucks after that, and then Nashville's drop-off is a big shock too. But the Predators last year, they were a decent team, but they weren't viewed as a contender the way the Canucks were.
Really good stuff. Really good stuff in the chat today. I want to keep it on the Miller stuff. This one, what's worse? New York getting Miller and missing, or Vancouver not trading Brock Besser and also missing? Now, my instant reaction is to go to Miller, right? And say, oh, giving up assets for JT Miller and then missing the playoffs, because obviously we know that the appeal there is what you're going to get in the short term. And they haven't gotten that so far from the Miller trade. But it is also hard not to look at the Canucks situation and say, A, not trading Brock and missing, but also like giving up assets for Marcus Pettersson, giving up a really, really good asset to get Marcus Pettersson and to get money off your books. And look, there's someone in the chat asking, oh, could they have signed Marcus Pettersson in free agency and not had to give up assets for him? Yeah, maybe, but I'm not even going to go down that road. I'm just saying you gave up assets to get Marcus Pettersson because you thought he was going to help your team this season. And that was part of the appeal of not waiting till the offseason to sign him. And then they didn't trade Brock when it was clear that wasn't going to happen, or we all kind of said you probably should trade Brock. I'm leaning a little to the Vancouver side on this question.
I don't really factor the Marcus Pettersson side of the equation or the first round pick. I think that's a separate conversation. But yeah, I mean, I kind of lean towards the Brock one just because it was a slam dunk. It's such an obvious thing. It's not your year. You sell it at the deadline, especially when you don't seem particularly fond of re-signing this guy.
Yeah.
Now, is there a scenario where the Canucks double back, and especially to protect themselves from an optic standpoint, do they re-enter negotiations and are willing to pay more than they previously did to get him signed? Maybe it's a possibility, but I don't think that scenario is necessarily great either. And again, it all comes down to that asset, whatever package you would have gotten. Those are prime trade chips that you could have used in the offseason to go out and get top flight forwards, because it's not just the centerman. The Canucks could also just straight up use another first line caliber winger who can drive play, and we wouldn't then be talking about, oh, is DPD a potential trade chip, because then you would have an extra first round pick potentially to dangle in those conversations. Whereas now, if management wants to make a trade, that's when you have to potentially start dipping into your prospect pool and in your own first round picks. I just think I'd frame it this way. The Miller trade probably has the potential to hurt the Rangers more because of that unprotected first round pick. Like, there's greater downside risk with what the Rangers did, but I'd say process wise, the Canucks not selling on Besser was a worse decision in the moment, if that makes sense.
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. I think I called it needlessly reckless at the time, and I stand by that, of course. Okay. Is there anything else in the chat we should get to? Nar brought up the thing about Elias Pettersson's no movement clause approaching. It is a fascinating conversation, but I think it's one that we can dive into more down the road. Like, we still got a couple weeks of shows to do here, folks, before we go back down to 3 shows a week like we do in the off season. We still got a lot to get to, so we're gonna save that. We're gonna bookmark that one. Okay. Mark asked about Lankinen, and Thatcher Demko starts tonight, but this is from Mark. He said, Lankinen's at 48 games played and counting. What's the max in the plan for next year, assuming Demko is reasonably healthy? Okay, assuming Demko is reasonably healthy, you have to look for a 50-50 split. You have to.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get tempted, and I know they will. You can't get tempted to say, okay, well, Demko's going to play more. You need to do the Swayman and Allmark thing, and then maybe Demko's the guy in the playoffs, right? But you can't do this same thing again where you just overplay. Well, I guess Lankinen's been overplayed too, but Demko's health is just so important to this team. I would be very, very, very on board with them going kind of like a 50-50 split, no matter what's going on.
Yeah, fully agree there.
Okay. Anything else that we see? Yeah, we've talked about Filipino. Brad's asking about what do you see happening with Hedl next year? Does he need to be considered the plan B for a second or third line center? Answer is yeah. Like, you can't. When we've had this conversation, so I'll just repeat what we've said. While his cap hit might look like he could be a second line center, you don't want to go in and say, yeah, Filipino is our second line center. On paper, he needs to be your third line center, and then you're relying on the rest of your depth. And it's why a guy like Pius Suter, who can play the wing even if Filipino's healthy, but then also slot in as 3C if Hedl were to go down with another concussion or be unavailable to you. It's why a guy like Suter, that versatility really comes in handy. But no, the Canucks, and I mean, this is the biggest conversation we have, is they need to go get a second line center, a true second line center. That means that Filipino is penciled in on the third pair for next year. Yeah, S Little Boston said, I can't believe Laviolette lasted through today. I'm on Laviolette watch. Like, there needs to be a firing, I think, in New York. It's crazy that it has lasted as long as it has. But yeah, that team, not great. Montreal Canadiens, 5 straight. Loving it. Loving what I'm seeing. Lane Hudson called it.
And I am going to point this out because Quads, I think you brought it up about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago when Montreal was kind of sputtering. And I said, this Habs team has been so streaky, they'll rattle off like, 6 wins and 7, then they'll drop 4 in a row, and then they're going to win 5 in a row again. And what did they do? They went out and won 5 in a row again, and they are basically, well, they're absolutely in control of their own playoff destiny now. I think it's 2 more wins, and they've locked it up, depending on what else happens around them. But they're looking like they're going to be a Stanley Cup playoff team, which coming into the year, I don't think anyone would have predicted.
Jacob, where do you think Demidov slots in the lineup?
It's hard to say. I mean, I would love to just see him on a line with Suzuki and Caulfield if he gets regular season games before the playoffs, just to see what the future looks like. But realistically, he's probably going to play lower down the lineup. The Habs are weird, especially in 5-on-5, just because they're so reliant on their top guys 5-on-5, right? Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slavkovsky's been playing with them a lot. A guy like Line A is really only going to contribute on the power play. Their depth guys are solid depth guys, but they're not really they're not really going to drive play at even strength. So I wouldn't mind seeing Demidov in a bottom 6 role and giving him some matchup opportunities to see if he can be a play driver at the NHL level.
Who the hell is Oliver Kapanen, and why is he penciled on the second line according to Daily Faceoff?
Oliver Kapanen is a young Swedish forward. I'll be honest, I don't really know much about him, even as a Habs fan. But again, like that kind of just goes back to my point where at 5-on-5, this team is Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and Juraj Slavkovsky. And so Demidov sliding in, in a middle 6 role, based on what he's done in the KHL, you would hope he could do that with this team. Now, playoffs are another beast, but hey, anything's possible. We've seen top picks come out of college and jump right into NHL playoff games. You would think that jumping from the KHL is a little bit of an easier step for a guy like Demidov.
Picking in the top 10 must be fun, or the top 5, even funner, even more fun, one might say. Boston Bruins are currently slated to get the 4th overall pick. Did you see this? The Bruins just keep losing. They've lost. They lost again. They're 1-8-1 in their last 10 games. They are currently slated to get the 4th overall pick in this year's draft, which is just not fair. I don't know why it's not fair, but I don't like it.
Yeah, they're finally bad, and they end up with a top 5 pick. At least it's not in a dominant draft class.
You know what's funny? We're talking about, Montreal Canadiens. Playoff wagon. They're an official playoff team of Canucks Convo. They have 2 more points than the Canucks do in the standings and 2 fewer than the Calgary Flames, who look like they might miss. But I did want to bring this up because it would be funny. If the Oilers go 2-3 over their next 5 and the Flames win their next 5, Flames make the playoffs as the 3rd Pacific team and the Oilers miss, which would just be obviously hysterical. But I'd like to see the Oilers in the playoffs. I don't want to see them not make it, but it would be really funny if Wagon Flames just took off right now. That'd be they're right in that conversation.
Imagine the rest of the hockey world would never let Edmonton.
No, that's why it would be funny.
That.
It would be funny, but it would also suck. That would really suck.
Why?
I don't know, because you want the best player in the game to be in the playoffs.
I'm here for the Schadenfreude of the Oilers melting down. It's not gonna happen, but.
Look at you go. Usually it's me that's talking about the Oilers' downfall. But no, I do want to see the best player in the game, Leon Draisaitl, in the playoffs. Stuart Skinner. Conn Smythe, where is it? Where do I get my odds? Okay, let's go. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. There's a lot of lopsided lines tonight. It's a lot of favorites followed by a lot of guys. Oh, okay. Do you buy that the Panthers are tanking to face the Leafs in the first round?
I doubt. Well, here's the thing. I doubt they're intentionally tanking, but they've been resting guys. Like Forsling for a game, Reinhardt for a game. Tanking? And the Sens have won 3 straight.
So we're going to the Toronto Maple Leafs Florida Panthers game tonight. The Maple Leafs are heavy underdogs in Florida tonight at plus 140 odds. We're taking Leafs money line plus 140 also because it increases the odds of them facing Florida in the first round. So we're taking that. We're taking it. I don't know why I keep saying Montreal. Toronto Maple Leafs plus 140 money line against the Panthers. You can get that over at Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat-trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. And Jacob makes a good point in our private chat. I don't actually want to see Florida versus Toronto. I really want to see the Battle of Ontario.
Oh, yeah.
I really, really want to see Ottawa versus Toronto in that round 1 matchup. Because again, I go for whatever would be funniest. And it would be funniest to see them get bounced by Brady Tkachuk and his Ottawa Senators.
That giant baby pick would go insane.
So hard. Yeah. We would pull it up every day. We would do special shows we would do post-game shows, I think, of the Senators beating the Leafs if that matchup happened. Jacob, do we have the giant baby?
Do you want the giant baby? Which version of the giant baby?
Just any version, but we gotta cook up probably a Montreal, or why do you say Montreal? Ottawa on top of the Leafs. We probably have to cook one of those up, but I know we can't do that right now. Just there it is. All right, in all its glory, we'll close it out there. For my co-host Harman Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name is Jacob Jelly. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day.